Good morning, everybody. This is Pasquale Majori, and this is Give Me 20 Minutes. It is Saturday, July 26th, here in Western New York and beyond. Thank you so much for joining me here this morning. I think if you know me, you know what I'm going to talk about on this episode. Had some very bad news that came out of the professional wrestling world on Thursday. Once again, if you're a wrestling fan, you should know exactly what I'm talking about. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about here today on Give Me 20 Minutes. We'll get into a couple other things as well. I can't believe how quickly summer is going away. I had a conversation with a gentleman that I do business with. I said, summer is pretty much over. Bill's training camp is here. The Erie County Fair will be here before you know it. The Bills will be playing their first preseason game before you know it. Although it is still very hot outside. Thursday night after softball, went to Vinny's, one of our great supporters and sponsors, ate some spicy Thai or Thai chili wings, whatever they were. And I thought I was going to die from heat stroke because I was sweating so much from eating those wings. Fast forward to last night, went to the Italian festival, had a slice of the delicious Cappy's pizza as my mouth is watering. They have that big, thick, I don't know if it's a Sicilian style, whatever you want to call it. It's a big, thick slice of pizza. Once again, started sweating like a pig and thought I was going to die once again from eating. It's been so warm out. It's been so hot out. But once again, when you get to my age, you talk to other people, you make bad jokes about the weather. I'm going to look back to April and May, think about the rainy 50-degree weather we had then and not complain about it. I actually do think that I got some grass growth from that rain we got a couple days ago, so I might have to get on the mower, get that done. But I know you don't care about that. I know what you're here for. You're here because I need you to give me 20 minutes. So before we get into the topic at hand, let's talk about Buffalo Championship Wrestling. That event is going to be here before you know it. We're just over 2 months away. Buffalo Championship Wrestling presents the Big Fall Bash, Saturday, September 27th, Renaissance Italian Club in North Tonawanda, New York, 6:30 p.m. bell time. Please make a note. This is different than the events that we do in February and April. We switch from Sunday to Saturday, and we switch from 4 o'clock to 6:30. It's going to be a great evening of family-friendly, local, and live professional wrestling action. All your favorite Buffalo Championship Wrestling stars will be there. And if you want to get those tickets, and believe me, you do, go to bcw-wny.com to find out more. We'll talk a little bit more about that later in the program. But we need to talk about this. This is the reason why I'm here on this Saturday morning. I'm very glad to be with you here on Saturday morning. Once again, I mentioned the recording schedule that I wanted to have, the live stream schedule I wanted to have, and that being Saturday morning, either at 7 or 8 o'clock. When I get into a groove, we'll get more onto a regular schedule and talk more about that, but I'm glad that I'm here on Saturday morning. Last week, I came to you on Sunday morning, and then Tuesday, myself and Connor Kobus, we did a More Than Breaking Tables live stream, and you can go over and find that talking about the Buffalo Bills. I mentioned I was at training camp on Wednesday to check that out. Didn't really focus that much about what was going on the field. It was more of a people watching thing. It was kind of cool near the end of the practice when the Josh Allen was working with his receivers for the Hard Knocks cameras to get some stuff filmed for that, and that was pretty cool to check out. But that will be coming back at you again this Tuesday, so make sure you're following me on social media, on Instagram, on X at WNY Pasquale to find out more about that. So the reason why I'm here this morning and the reason why I need you to give me 20 minutes is we lost a legend on Thursday. Hulk Hogan passed away at age 71 from cardiac arrest. I don't need to tell you what Hulk Hogan has given to not only professional wrestling, but he's also a pop culture icon. One of my influences growing up, I didn't really need to do much research when I came up with this give me 20 minutes. Once again, living through the 80s, living through the 90s, living through the 2000s, etc., etc., etc. I had my eyes on Hulk Hogan ever since I was a young child. Finding out the news that Hogan passed away was really heartbreaking. Once again, if you're this type of person, you're that type of person. If that makes you happy, that makes you happy. Every time a celebrity passes away, you go on your Facebook, you go on your Instagram, you go on your X, you post yada, yada, yada. This celebrity passed away. This is how this person impacted me. This is how this person influenced me. I am not that person. I did go on Facebook after finding out the news about Hulk Hogan passing away, and I mentioned 3 celebrities. If they were to pass away, I would have to dedicate a post to them. Those 3 being Hulk Hogan, Sylvester Stallone, and Billy Joel. So I got a text message. I was at a work function. I was very distracted. Got a text message that Hogan had indeed died, and I did not expect to hear that news. There was some rumors and rumblings that he wasn't doing very well, some stuff from people that were around him, some, close friends and things like that. And I didn't really think about it, but Hogan has been very active on social media over the last couple of years, especially as he's been promoting his Real American Beer. He's been going all over the country to promote the beer, still working, still hustling, still grinding, still being the Hulk Hogan that we all grew up to know and to love. For me personally, once again, we talked about this several times on this program. I've been a wrestling fan since the early mid 80s, and Hulk Hogan was always a huge influence on me when I was growing up. I was raised by a single mother, didn't have that father figure in the house. So like a lot of other kids that were in that situation, you gravitate to other people in your life. You gravitate to people in film. You gravitate to people in sports, in television. And for me growing up, Hulk Hogan was my guy. I was instantly hooked on Hulkamania, instantly hooked on Hulk Hogan, this larger than life figure, this superhero who was a part of professional wrestling, who really helped raise the popularity along with Vince McMahon of professional wrestling. Once again, I'm not going to go until I'm blue in the face here to repeat the things that I'm sure a lot of you already know. I'm not going to go date by date, fact by fact. I listened to a couple podcasts where these people were just droning on and on and on. Hulk Hogan did this on that date, then he did that on this date, and then he did this on the other date, just going on and on and on. And it was just horrible to listen to, like just very boring. So, if you're my friend, if you're my family member, if you appreciate the give me 20 minutes that I put out, I'm just going to go through a couple memories of the Hulkster that I had. And I want you to give me your memories as well. Put them in the comments below. Let me know how big of an influence Hulk Hogan was for you. I've seen an outpouring of posts and things like that from my fellow independent professional wrestlers, from people in the media, from all over. Once again, this has been a huge story, not just in the professional wrestling world, but media outlets picking it up left and right. And, more will be coming out in the days and weeks ahead. I guess the WWE did a huge tribute last night on SmackDown, which I need to check out on YouTube because I don't have cable. But I just want to talk once again about a couple things that influenced me early on. Excuse me, I have to go to my phone because I'm still getting used to using this software on my computer. So once I get that mastered, I will be more fluid and be able to kind of bounce back and forth and do the regular thing. So for me personally, the first time I had the experience to see Hulk Hogan live and in living color was March 29th, 1986. My mother took me to the Buffalo Memorial Auditorium. We had gold seats, which if you are familiar with the auditorium, that would be the equivalent to the 100 level in the KeyBank Center. Really good seats. We were in the end zone, got to see the whole thing. It was a great evening. It was a great card of WWF wrestling. This was the second live event that I was able to go to. And as soon as Hulk Hogan was announced for the card, I'm like, Mom, Grandma, whoever is available, I have to go to this. I have to be there. You have to take me. I will never speak to you again if you don't take me. So we'll go through the card. No big deal. We got time here. We have 20 minutes, so we'll go through the card. Opening contest, Bret Hart defeated the legendary Tony Garea. King Tonga, also known as Haku, fought Iron Mike Sharp to a draw. Jake the Snake Roberts defeated S.D. Jones. That was when Jake was first coming on the scene. Terry and Dory Funk, the Funk brothers, defeated Davey Boy Smith and the Dynamite Kid, the British Bulldogs. Interesting there. B. Brian Blair defeated Jim the Anvil Neidhart. B. Brian Blair, a longtime friend of Hulk Hogan, so he was on that card. The Junkyard Dog defeated Kenmore's own adorable Adrian Adonis via disqualification. And then from there in the main event, the WWF World Champion Hulk Hogan teamed up with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat to defeat the threesome of Don Morocco, Mr. Fuji, and Handsome Johnny V in a handicap match. At the time, I was 7 years old. I have never experienced anything like seeing Hulk Hogan live in person, and it really was a great experience, really was an enjoyable event, as every wrestling event was back in that time. You know, when you talk about going to the live events, you talk about collecting the action figures. I still proudly have this figure in my display cabinet. This is the original Hulk Hogan wrestling figure. You see, it's in pretty good shape. I got some wear on the knees there. Got the original belt. Got this nice little platform that I had the figures displayed on. Where'd that black spot come from? Oh, we're gonna have to clean that up. But this huge, played with this figure often. I would play with it so much. You do the leg drop and then you spread the leg out and it would tear the back of the leg. So I had to have maybe 2 or 3 of these figures because I was always beating everybody with Hulk Hogan, whether it was Bundy, whether it was Andre, whether it was Big John Studd. They had to lose a lot to this Hulk Hogan figure, and that's exactly what they did. I had the Hulk Hogan workout set, had the blue dumbbells, had the chart with different exercises to do. There was one of those hand gripper deals. There was a jump rope. So anything I could get my hands on when it came to Hulk Hogan, I would get the magazines, the posters. My room had so much Hulk Hogan stuff in there. He was such a huge influence to me growing up in the 80s, in the 90s. You know, we had some negativity that came out as well with Hogan back in the day when it came to the steroid trial. I will never hold steroid use against anybody in that era when it came to professional wrestling. These guys were wrestling over 300 days a year. They were wrestling 6-7 days a week. You had to maintain your physique. You had to keep going because you were getting paid every time you wrestled. You weren't getting a guaranteed contract. So if you needed to keep going. So if these guys had to use steroids to keep going, then that was their deal. You know, some other people will look at it in a different perspective, but I'm not going to judge him for using steroids. He was involved in that high-profile steroid case with Vince McMahon, made several media appearances, but I'm not going to hold that against him. I want to pull up another, bear with me. I still have all the programs and lineups saved for a lot of the events that I went to when I was younger. So I want to talk about this. I believe this was the first event that I attended at the Niagara Falls Civic and Convention Center. I will post this on social media when I have the opportunity to do so. This took place on Sunday, August 26th, 1990. We were leading up to SummerSlam. We were leading up to Hogan versus Earthquake. So Hogan faced Dino Bravo with Earthquake in his corner in the main event. Also on the card, Jake the Snake Roberts took on Bad News Brown. The Hart Foundation, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, and Bret Hitman Hart battled Power and Glory, a highly underrated tag team, Hercules and Paul Roma. Rugged Ronnie Garvin faced the Barbarian. Hillbilly Jim battled Bob Bradley. You had Jumping Jim Brunzell against Black Bart, and then Pistol Pez Watley against the Warlord. But just a couple memories that I had of the Hulkster. Once again, I can't thank him enough for all the inspiration, for all of the motivation that he has given me over the years. I could probably sit here and talk about Hulk for 4, 5, 6 hours, maybe do an 8-hour shift talking about Hulk Hogan, but I will let other podcasts do that. I will let other podcasts go through each date, how he did this, why he did this. And once again, if you have to talk about the negative when it comes to Hulk Hogan, he was maybe not the most perfect individual outside of the ring, but then again, who is outside of their given profession? You want to bring up these couple negative incidents that took place over the last 10 or so, 15 years. We saw a lot of negative energy start being directed towards Hulk Hogan once he did the reality show with his family. Hogan Knows Best. I did watch that. I did check that out. Now I almost want to go back and rewatch that. I'm going to have to find a streaming service that has that. A lot of negativity. His life seemed to change a lot after that reality show. Went through a couple divorces. His son Nick was in a lot of trouble. So people seem to hold that against Hogan. And now in this day and age where, media just wants to build people up so they can tear them down, they will find any bit of negativity, not to mention these horrible wrestling podcasts, these one-sided wrestling podcasts where wrestlers will go on and tell only their side of the story. So a lot of wrestlers will say, Hogan didn't let me do this, Hogan didn't let me do that, and that is only their perspective and only their point of view. There's no counter argument, and there's this fan base, this internet fan base in professional wrestling that seem to have their minds made up one direction and one direction only, based solely off of these one-sided podcasts, based solely, and I use this term loosely, off these wrestling media outlets that are just one point of view, one perspective only, not looking at the other end. And everything that Hulk Hogan has contributed to professional wrestling, WrestleMania, the early years, most notably to me, WrestleMania 2, his cage match against Bundy, loved it. WrestleMania 3, his match against Andre, one of the biggest matches in the history of professional wrestling. Then you had, Hogan with Savage, and you had Hogan at WrestleMania 6 versus the Ultimate Warrior. I was Team Hogan, very upset when Hogan lost the championship to the Ultimate Warrior, but, it is what it is. And again, people can develop their own opinions and their own ideas about an individual, but that doesn't make them right. That doesn't make me right either. The great thing is, we can agree to disagree. So if you're not a fan of Hulk Hogan, not only do I want to hear your memories, see your memories in the comments, but let me know why you don't like Hulk Hogan. You can disagree with me. That's totally fine. That's not a problem. But once again, just a few memories on Hulk Hogan. Rest in peace, brother. Hulkamania will live forever. And I'm going to spend a lot of time this weekend and the coming week, once again, going back, watching a lot of those matches from my childhood, watching a lot of matches from later on, and when I decided to get involved in pro wrestling. So once again, thank you, Hulkster, and Hulkamania will live forever. But I told you to give me 20 minutes, and we're coming up on 20 minutes. So before I get out, once again, just make sure you check out BCW on social media at BCWWNY, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X to find out more about the Big Fall Bash that's coming up on Saturday, September 27th. Get your tickets at bcw-wny.com. It's going to be a great event. We're going to talk about it more in the weeks to come here on the program. Follow me on Instagram at WNY Pasquale. Follow me on X at WNY Pasquale as well. The Bills are in training camp. Before you know it, the first preseason game will be here, and we'll talk more about that this week with Connor Kobus on Tuesday. more than breaking tables. But I am running out of time. Thank you once again so much for joining me here on Give Me 20 Minutes. I'm Pasquale Maggiore, and I'll talk to you again very soon.